a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Dr. Will Greer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about where I see the promise of Dr. King and the potential of Dr. King, and where we can continue to fulfill the legacy of Dr. King, the spirit of Dr. King. So I think that we should start with the premise that most folks simply believe that the way things are is how they've always been. And I think this is one of the primary reasons why we struggle to unite within and across races. There was a history professor at Princeton, thank you, Nell Painter, who believed that black folks should have a certain amount of historical amnesia. Otherwise, our racist past and present would consume us, and it would stifle the possibility of forward progress. And so I agree with this. I think this is correct, but only if we accept things as they now appear. If we kind of adopt a counter narrative, and if we go against the status quo, then we can actually accept responsibility for creating better outcomes for our people, right? Particularly in all areas of human relations, entertainment, education, labor, politics, law, religion, sex, war, and economics. So what I want to do here today is kind of talk about why I think the work and the spirit of Dr. King, it has to continue, right? And it has to continue in all of us, mainly because there's too much work to be done by all members of the human family, not just African Americans, not just Latinos, Asians, indigenous folks, white folks, all of us. The spirit and the work of Dr. King, it absolutely has to continue. And so what I want to talk to you guys about today is just a few of the areas wherein I think that there is great potential and great latitude for us to do some much needed work. And I'm going to start with an area that's probably familiar, or hopefully familiar to all of us. Entertainment. We're going to talk about sports here. Family sports. So we all know that in the NFL, the vast majority of the players, the ones who run the ball, catch the ball, throw the ball, hit others who have the ball, are black, right? We get this intuitively. And we also get that the vast majority of coaches, the folks who call the plays, create the blueprint, create the diagram, and oftentimes hire and fire trade players, the vast majority of the coaches are white. The vast majority of owners, the folks who own the teams, own the stadiums, sign the coaches' paychecks, they're white. The vast majority of folks who work in the league office, right, who literally create the rules of the game, and hire the referees and run the day-to-day operations, we get they're white. They're white, right? So it should come as no surprise when a player comes along like a Colin Kaepernick, who says, and by the way, I need somebody to time me, because I will go over. You got me on time? Okay. I will talk about this all day. But it should come as no surprise when a player of Colin Kaepernick's stature comes along, and he says, wow, when we are standing and placing our hands over our hearts during the singing of the national anthem, which many would regard as patriotic, right? And I would agree it probably is patriotic in some ways. When he comes along and he says, I'm going to do something that's patriotic in another way. And I'm going to kneel and actually take a stand by doing so on behalf of the countless black men, women, and children who are unarmed and murdered without any probable cause, without any due process, right? I'm going to kneel for them. And it should come as no surprise when within a year he's out of a job and outside of the league. So, likewise, it should not come as a surprise when we see in the 21st century these sort of ongoing, continuing signs of just blatant disrespect and what really is Jim Crow racist caricatures of Native Americans and indigenous people in professional and collegiate sports. It should not surprise us when we see examples of this. And I would also add that, and I hope I don't get in trouble with this, but we really don't even have to go too far because right down the road there's a high school whose mascot is a Confederate soldier, a Southern Confederate soldier. So we don't have to look too far for these examples, right? And it really shouldn't come as a surprise to us. The question is, well, what do we do about it? You know, so one thing that we can do is we can take a stand with Colin Kaepernick. We can sit out the season when the games come on. We don't have to watch them. I know there's a whole bunch of playoff games coming on tomorrow. And I know some of the gentlemen in this room are looking at me like, I ain't missing that game. I'm watching that game. But we don't have to, right? I mean, we can boycott that. If we want to take more action, we can engage in a letter writing campaign. This is a letter from Kappa Alpha Psi, the fraternity of which Colin Kaepernick is a member. They wrote this to Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL. We can engage in a letter writing campaign. We can write letters to our favorite teams owners, to our favorite teams coaches. We can write letters to the league itself. But if we want to take even stronger action and really hit them where it hurts, and I think Dr. King would have been all about this, because we know that historically, economics and racial justice have gone hand in hand. Right? Let's not forget how the Montgomery bus boycott was won. You know, those folks, they sat out for 381 days and they decided not to ride that bus. They divested from the local economy, and after doing so for a year and some change, local government came to them and said, well, you've economically crippled us.
Right.
Segregation on those buses, you can sit wherever you want now. It's no more, right? So if we wanted to, if everybody in this room came together and we organized and galvanized 1,000 people, we could engage in a letter writing campaign to the corporate sponsors of the NFL, and we could say, we will divest from you. We will not invest, you will not get our dollars if you do not support us in the cause for racial justice.
Yes.
Right? Which should not be a black cause, it should be an American cause.
Right.
When we come together for racial justice, we make America better. We make sure that the talent and human potential inherent in everyone is at the full service,
Yes.
right, of the American people. So we could come together and we could do that. But I'm going to look at another area here. I want us to kind of turn our attention and talk a little bit about Hollywood, film, TV, music, and the like. Because there's a lot of potential there too, and I think Dr. King would be all about it for this fight. So it's interesting to me that in the 21st century, we are still seeing movies where black folks are depicted as butlers, maids, and slaves, right? And that's certainly a part of our more recent history here in the last few hundred years and here in the West. But it is extremely interesting to me when in 2016 a movie comes out called The Gods of Egypt, there are no black people in the leading roles.
Wow.
And the gods of Egypt and the kings and queens of Egypt are depicted by these people. So this is where I'm going to pause and I'm going to do what in teacher speak, I'm going to give what we would call a mini lesson. Because Egypt, to my knowledge, is and always has been in Africa. It is just north of the Sudan and just east of Libya. I just want to point this out. I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. It's just east of Libya. And during its heyday, it had 30 dynasties, which is about 3,000 years of black or mixed black rule. During that time, there were great leaders like Imhotep, Narmer, Hatshepsut, Tutankhamun, Akhenaten, and many, many others, right? Scholars have long, African-American scholars and black scholars across the diaspora and historians, they have long since determined that there was great cultural, linguistic, ethnic, religious, spiritual continuity across the folks who were in Egypt during the times of antiquity and their African counterparts in other parts of the continent. Which is to say that they were more alike, more similar than different. And if we don't want to trust their opinion, we can trust the opinion of some of the eyewitness accounts of folks who were there. People like Herodotus, Socrates, Pythagoras, they all were in Egypt. They studied under the Egyptians. They described them in their writings as black people who had woolly hair, right? They probably look more like Obama than some of these guys, right? So we have to ask ourselves, you know, why is Hollywood still so invested in and committed to putting out what we can only describe as white supremacist characterizations and representations of African people? What kind of disservice does this do, not just to black folks, but to the world?
Yeah.
In terms of sort of keeping a history and a knowledge about a group of people hidden, lost, and secret. What does it do? If we're going to engage in a letter writing campaign, and if we're going to start telling the NFL off, we need to be telling Hollywood off too, because some of the representations are not right. Thank you. My man said I got 10 minutes, so I'm going to speed this up. Right? But I just personally believe we should be writing some of these production companies, some of these producers, some of these directors, and we should be letting them know we are not going to be supporting you. What we should do instead is make sure, and again, this is all American. When Spike Lee puts out a movie, when Ava DuVernay puts out a movie, when Barry Jenkins puts out a movie, he put out Moonlight last year in 2016. It's one of the best movies I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years. We should be supporting that.
Right.
We should be investing dollars, American dollars, in their films, because we know we're probably going to get a more accurate depiction of who black people are. And this is something that we don't always get to see in America. So this is extremely important. Okay. And I'm going to just say this, if we don't do this, then we can't be surprised when this comes out. Everybody's not laughing. I'm going to take that to me, y'all don't all know who Shaka Zulu is. That's fine. That's fine. He didn't look like that, I'll tell you that. Okay? Listen, I'm going to just quickly turn the finger to us for a second, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, because I don't want to sound like an old head, even though I am an old head. Because this is a problem, this represents a problem that we've had since I was a young head, since I was a kid. So Eazy-E did it, Snoop Dogg did it, and now the rappers up today are doing it. We also, as people of color and as Americans in general, we have to stop supporting music and content that doesn't really support our best interests, right? It doesn't reflect our best interests. And what I'll say here is, you know, listen, I get it. When you talk about African American entertainers, we often have a certain amount of post-traumatic slave disorder. You're talking about folks, kids, young people who grew up in poverty, kids who grew up amidst a considerable amount of trauma, and then somehow, some way, by God's grace, they become rappers, and they have a microphone in front of them, and they have a platform, right? But we still need to hold them to a higher standard. And we still need to engage with them and ask them to produce better content. This is something that we have to do. The disrespect for black women, this here, it has to stop in the music. This is something that we should not accept. I don't know if some of you know who Kodak Black is, but he got in a little bit of trouble last year. He came out and said that dark-skinned women were not beautiful enough for him, they weren't good enough for him, they were beneath him, as spacious as the teeth are in his mouth. He said that. We have to send a message to entertainers and the rappers that when they say things like that, we won't support their music, right? The ongoing message has to be from all of us. If you constantly rap about killing black men and disrespecting black women and your music is trash, that has to be the message going forward. That has to be the message. Okay. All right, I know I only got a little bit of time here, so let me push on. I'm going to just talk about one more area, and this is education. I was in K-12 education for 13 years. I've been working in higher ed for the last 4 years. So this is extremely important to me, and this is a place where I know Dr. King will be fighting. I know he will be fighting, right? When we talk today in 2018, it is still the status case that on most indicators when we're talking about something positive, academic achievement, reading, math success, graduation from high school, matriculating on into college, African American students by and large are still at the bottom. And when we're talking about something negative, being referred, being suspended, being expelled, being placed in special education, African American students are still by and large at the top. And we also know from research that by second grade, African American students, particularly African American boys, begin to get disengaged. This is a trend that persists all the way through high school. And we also know that black kids by and large go to schools that oftentimes funnel them into what's called the school to prison pipeline, right? So it should be heartbreaking, but all too common for us to see images like this and images like this. This was of a black girl who was sitting at a desk in a high school in South Carolina just, I believe, last year or maybe the year before that. And this is what a police officer did to her in class. This should be outrageous to all of us.